Hello, thank you for joining me. So in this video I'd like to finish up the sketching on our outlet cover, our receptacle cover, and go ahead and finish our model, our solid model after that. Now all we have left to do here is to do a mirror command of the hole for the top part of the outlet and mirror it down to the bottom. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking all the four elements that are up here. I'm going to mirror it using this mirror line and make it up here as a symmetric relationship, all four of those elements down here. So the way you do that, there's a couple different approaches you can do. You can go to the mirror command, and it says entities and mirror over here. You can click on this, 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 and this all at the same time. You want to make sure the copy button is copied or checked here. Otherwise, it'll just do a single element. It'll take everything up here and put it down here, which might be appropriate to do in some situations. But you also have to declare where you want to mirror it about. And we're going to click on this line. You'll see a yellow preview down here. Yellow is a preview. Remember we saw that preview with our sketch relations. Yellow is a preview of that. So it's also going to show you a preview of the lines down here too. Now you can do the green check mark. As an alternative to that, which might be a little bit quicker, if you were to click on one of these elements up here, then right click and go to select chain, click on this line, and just go to mirror entities, it automatically will assume the center line is going to be your mirror line. And it's going to mirror those things right away, so you have no more dialogue after that. It just does it. Saves a few steps, saves about 2 or 3 steps. And these steps, if you're working all day long on the model, could add up to minutes, minutes add up to hours, and it just allows you to be more productive. One of the things about this class, because I have a lot of experience in CAD, just about 10 years of experience in CAD here, is that the more productive you are at this stuff, the better you're going to be at it, and the more fun it's going to be, and the more money you're likely to make. So I'm going to try to show you a lot of these productivity techniques as we go through the class in order to facilitate your learning. So now we have our outlet hole on the top, outlet hole on the bottom. Let's go ahead and do a feature. Before we do that, let me show you one more thing. Let me show you some of the new sketch relations that have appeared. When we trimmed out our circle, we have a couple different sketch relations that appeared here. We now have a co-radial sketch relationship. And you see this comes in a pair, so if you'll notice that we have our arc over here, our sketch relation turns blue, this one turns blue, and we have a pink arc over here too. So what that does is it shows you the two pairs here. You have a sketch relation over here and a sketch relation over here with a number by it. That says 13, that's 13, so they come in pairs. We also have a symmetric relationship, so if you were to click on this symmetric relationship, it's at that point. If you go to this one, which is symmetric relationship number 3, it's in regard to this arc, but it not only includes that arc, it includes the center line and then this arc up here too. So now you have 3 sketch relations which refer to the same sketch relation, symmetric number 3, but you see all 3 of these are lit up in blue. And then we have the usual ones, the midpoint over here. We have a vertical and horizontal and some of the other ones that we're more familiar with, but I thought I'd stop and show you that. Those things are important. Again, those are going to be test questions, so you might want to make note of that. So let's go ahead and do our extrude. Then we do an Extrude Boss base. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways of doing this. If we just do an Extrude Boss base and we want to do 3/16 of an inch, you can type in 3 divided by 16 up here. It's going to assume inches. And go to green check mark. It'll automatically put that in decimal format unless you change that into your options up here. Or you can type in 0.1875, it'll do the same thing. Green check mark. And let's consider this to the front, so what we're going to do is we're going to add material from the wall. And we're going to go and do the green check mark there. So there you have it. Let's add some stuff to this. Let's put a chamfer in that. And one thing to keep in mind here, we have a pretty static element here. We know it's not going to change. If we had to change these holes, we can do it within sketch relation, but I would like you to get into the habit of having 2 different extrudes here. The first extrude perhaps being the base. We'll just call that the base extrude, or just base would be fine. But the second extrude, you want to make that your holes. And the reason you want to do that, if you want to do like a linear pattern or circular pattern, with those holes, you have to have that hole as a separate feature. So let me show you how to do that. First, let's go back to the base. And let's go ahead and do something different here. We're going to go to selected contours, and we're going to select the contours we want to use. First of all, we want to use all the contours, everything within this space here, and in this space, and in that space. We're going to extrude that out. So now we have our base here, and we're going to go back and we're going to borrow that sketch, and this time we're going to do an extruded cut. Nice thing about this way is you can put all your geometry into one sketch, and then you can do all your features off of that one sketch. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come out, instead of cutting that direction, it's kind of the wrong direction, we're going to change the direction. So we're going to go to this arrow up here and click on that, and you'll see that the arrow down here changes. And if you want to change the thickness of your extrude cut, you can do that too by grabbing the arrow. But the arrow will allow you to define the direction. If you want to do a second direction, you click on that second arrow and do the same thing. You pull that out this way. That's a little bit too much. We're going to go back and undo the direction number 2 and just do direction number 1. And we're going to do blind. And we're going to type in 0.1875. It's going to be the same cut thickness as it was for the extrude. And then green check mark. Oh, we have an error here. Bodies to keep. Let's go ahead and cancel and just redefine that a little bit. Let's go to our selected contours. Instead of selecting everything, which means it cuts everything and then there's nothing left, let's just select the area inside of this and the area inside of that closed geometry, and then green check mark. Now it may not become apparent why we did it this way, but if you want to do like a linear pattern, and we'll just set that up real quick, this way we have the ability to select the holes to do. We'll just do this really quick. We're not going to do a direction 2. We're going to do the distance between the holes of about 2 inches. We're going to do 4 altogether. Then we're going to select our features. We can select the holes as a feature to do, or we can select the base as a feature to do without the holes. So kind of a different result. This isn't a really good example why we're doing this, but just keep in mind, do a base. If you're going to do a sketch, it's going to have all the sketch elements in there, and then do a second feature by borrowing the sketch from the base to do your holes, and I think you'll find it be a lot easier to deal with. Okay, belabored that enough. Let's go ahead and put in some more fun stuff. Chamfer. You'll find chamfer under fillet. If you go up here to the features tab in the command manager, go down to chamfer, and let's do maybe 1/8 of an inch, 0.125 at a 45-degree angle. Sounds good to me. And we're going to click on all the edges that we want to chamfer. Should give you a preview on that. You want to do tangent propagation, so if there was a rounded curve in this thing, it would revolve itself in a tangential manner around that. Otherwise, you have to choose them individually. If you didn't get it right the first time, don't sweat it. You could always go back to any feature or any sketch and make edits to it. And that's one nice thing about SolidWorks, is you don't have to have it perfect at first. You can go ahead and put a design together really quick and then come back later and get more and more specific with some of the elements you want to add to it and some changes you might want to make to your sketches or features. So to go back to the chamfer, if we right click on that, go to edit feature, we can continue to add more elements to it. So we're going to continue to add these edges. And a green check mark. Now we're going to do a shell. With the shell, we're going to make that also 1/8 of an inch thick. Go to the shell command. What the shell command does is allows you to designate a surface that will be open, and everything else will have a certain shell thickness to it. So let's do this. Let's go to the shell command. We're going to type in 0.125 up here. What it's asking for up here, if you go inside this blue box, the blue box allows you to populate it with more than one element. And if you just rest your cursor there for a moment, it tells you what it's looking for. So it's looking for faces. We're going to take this face and we're going to remove it. And we're not going to use any of the multi-thickness settings. We'll save that for a different video. But go to the green check mark, and you'll see we did a pretty good job there. One last thing we want to do is we want to put on a hole wizard. So what you do is click on the hole wizard button up here again on the feature tab of the command manager. We're going to type in, we're going to go up here. If it doesn't select it, it's selected here because I practiced this before. We're going to go to countersink. This option is going to be ANSI inch, flathead screw, the 100 variety. We're going to make it a number 8 size, and we're going to make it through wall. Now we're going to come down here, we're going go to the head clearance, and we're going to make modifications to that. But right now it's a 0.0125. I think its default setting was 1/10 of an inch. But before we do the green check mark, let's go to positions. And what it does is it allows us to select a surface. It's suggesting 3D sketch. You don't want to necessarily do that. But let's go ahead and click on the surface, and what it does is it gives you kind of a preview of what you're going to be able to put down here. I'm going to exaggerate this a little bit and just kind of show you what can be done. We could drop it right in the origin. The nice thing about having the origin right in the middle of our part, when it was designed that way by way of the sketch that we put together, is that we could use that origin later, and we could also use the planes. We have the top plane, which goes right through the middle of here. We have the right plane, and then we have the front plane, which is actually in the back over here. So we can use that origin, but for the sake of exaggeration and demonstration, I'm going to put it off to the side. Now before we leave this, we could do the green check mark and we'll have a hole in a place that we don't really want it to be. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some geometry in here. While we still have that position in here, we can still sketch, do some additional sketches. A hole wizard only looks for these points. And it doesn't matter what else we draw. We can draw a solid line, we can draw center lines. But what we're going to do with the center line here is we're going to take our point and drop it on that line. So now we have one constraint in here. It can go on and off in either direction. And we're going to do one more thing with that. If we click on that point, and with the control key depressed, click on that center line, and go to midpoint, it puts it right there in the middle where the origin is. So let's go to green check mark, and let's go back to type before we leave this. And go down here to head clearance and make a change to that. Let's make that 0.005 inches. And if we go to something else and click on it or go out in here, now you'll see that that clearance up here is much more shallow. It better resembles what that screw hole is going to be, that mounting hole is going to be for that outlet cover. Now we can go to the green check mark. Now it's in there. The problem with this is, and we're going to cover this in the next film, the problem with this is that that hole is shallow, and if we put a deep screw in there and we tighten it up too much, it's probably going to break our cover. But we'll save that, and we'll show you a resolution of that in our next film.